Hi, welcome to the Economic and Destination Development Committee meeting for this beautiful Thursday, May the 27th in Belleville. I'm the chair, Sean Kelly. Thanks to everybody for attending this morning. I appreciate you joining us, and we welcome everybody watching virtually on the City of Belleville's live streaming of our special meeting. So call on attendance. I'll go to Karen Post. How are we doing for committee members?
We do have a quorum of committee members in attendance.
Thank you. Item number 3 is disclosure of pecuniary interest in the general nature thereof. Anybody have anything to declare right off the top? We're good. Thank you. So today, I'm hoping to get lots of good conversation. We'll hear from different folks with reports. We're also in the process today of electing a vice chair. I'm hoping to keep things tight and on time, and so that when we get down to the correspondence, we received all in our package a letter from Mayor Panchuk, and I'd like to have a really good, healthy discussion today on that. So item 4 is the election of vice chair. There is a position available, and I'm hoping that there's some interest from all the committee members to think about putting their names forward, and we're going to go to Karen to kind of execute the election of the vice chair.
That's right. Good morning, everybody. So the process will be that we will call for nominations from the floor for vice chair. They do not need to be seconded. We just need a nomination from the floor. We will ask that person who's nominated if they accept the nomination, and if they do, we will ask if there are any other nominations, and we'll follow that process until we exhaust the number of nominations. Once we have a slate of nominated candidates, then we will start with the first one nominated and call for a vote on that individual as vice chair. Any questions at all about that process?
I just wanted to say too, I believe we have 11 voting members, Karen?
There are 11 voting positions, but we only have 10 voting members. The Loyalist College rep is not on the call today. So
all right. So if someone puts their name forward, they'll need 6.
That's
all
correct.
right.
Yes.
I put a name forward. Is it too soon? I just coming in.
Yes, we're asking for nominations for vice chair.
Okay. I'll nominate Catherine Brown if she will accept.
Do you accept the nomination, Catherine?
I do, thank you.
Are there any other nominations for vice chair? Yes, Edge?
I'll now nominate Carla Brennan.
Carla, will you stand as nominated?
I accept, thank you.
Any other nominations for vice chair? Yes, Stephanie?
Yes, I would like to nominate Carla Brennan as well.
Okay, all right. Thank you. Any other nominations for vice chair? Seeing none, we will call for a vote in order of the nomination. So all in favor of Catherine Brown as vice chair? Please put your hand up if you're a voting member. I see 1. I see 2. Okay, we're calling the vote. That vote is not approved. Second nomination, Carla Brennan for vice chair. I'll call the vote for that. Hands up, please. I see 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Okay, and the vote carries. Carla Brennan is the new vice chair.
Thank you.
Okay, congratulations.
Congratulations, Carla, and thanks to Catherine too for putting her name forward. Appreciate it all. We will go now to the minutes from April 27th, 2021. They were attached in your package. Can we get a mover? Councillor Alsop, seconder. Blair Gamble, any comments about the attached last minutes? We get those approved. All those in favor? Looks like it's approved. Thank you. Deputy, we'll go down to item number 6, correspondence, letter from Mayor Mitch Panchuk. We've allotted some time to discuss this. Just to give you an update on how this process and the letter came. I met with the mayor about 3 weeks ago. We talked about potentially adding some of his hopeful, successful work to our committee. And then the mayor rather sent out a letter, and you've had a chance to read it. I'll just I highlighted some things here. He'd like to see our committee do a bit more with Airbnb, short-term accommodations with the MAT tax, lost revenue there for the city of Belleville, and also enhancing the existing physician recruitment program. So that's where we're at today. I'd like to have a conversation. And Karen, do you want to just touch on the Airbnb so everybody's on the same page and what you can refer to? And I'm going to come to Doug Stevenson after you're done, Karen, just so Doug can kind of explain the benefits of the MAT tax and Airbnb as far as he's seeing it from the Bay Quinte Regional Marketing Board. Go ahead, Karen.
Certainly, Chair Kelly, thank you. So as the committee is aware, the city imposed a municipal accommodation tax, which is a 4% tax to be levied against all short-term accommodations. So it is to be paid by all hotels and all bed and breakfasts in the city. We've had great cooperation with our local hotels. They've been collecting and remitting that 4% since it was approved in 2019. We anticipate mainly with hotel costs that we would generate somewhere around $900,000 a year in funds that are intended to promote tourism, to support tourism in the local community. Most cities of our size and larger do have a municipal accommodation tax, and that has added a great amount of funds to their marketing budgets. So for us not to levy a municipal accommodation tax puts us at a significant disadvantage in terms of competing with those other communities for visitors. So it's been very helpful for us. One of the challenges that we've had is collecting the municipal accommodation tax from bed and breakfasts locally. Our preference has always been to work with short-term accommodation platforms like Airbnb and VRBO and some of the others. We've had some challenges, although we initially got Airbnb approval. They agreed to collect the municipal accommodation tax and remit it to us on behalf of their clients. They have since pulled back from that commitment, and they will not do it. And their reasoning is sound, I think. We went after Airbnb because they are the largest platform, but there are other short-term accommodation booking platforms that we have not gone after at this point. And they are petitioning and lobbying the provincial government to make it mandatory across all platforms. The challenge that we face today is that we have a group of accommodators, the hoteliers, who are charging the municipal accommodation tax, and we are very thankful for their cooperation. But it puts bed and breakfasts out there with an advantage if they don't have to or aren't charging the 4% municipal accommodation tax. The challenge for us is the staff resources to go out and, for one, identify all the bed and breakfasts in the city. And if you go on some of the booking platforms, you'll see that we have, some days we'll have 80 Airbnbs. Other days we'll have 150 bed and breakfasts in the city. It varies from day to day, and to log on, identify them, and get the cooperation of each of those owners to collect and remit is a very time-consuming task, and we just don't have the staff for that. So I think the impetus for Mayor Panchuk's letter is that he wants to find a solution to make sure that all of our accommodators are paying that municipal accommodation tax, so it is a level playing field. And of course, if everybody were paying the 4%, then the $900,000 that we anticipated generating every year to support tourism could then be, it could be increased to perhaps over $1 million a year. Is that a reasonable summary, Councillor Kelly?
That's great, Manager Post. I just want to go to Doug Stevenson, who's been dealing with the MAT tax for the last couple of years. In a couple of minutes, can you kind of just tell us the value? I think we all get it, but it's nice to have reminders.
Yeah, through you, Councilor Chair, to the committee and staff. I mean, it's just been a tremendous increase in budget that's allowed us to do so much. And, not just for the Regional Marketing Board, not just for City of Belleville, but also City of Quinte West, right, who implemented this next door. And, Karen and I and Linda Lyle from Quinte West have been talking about potential solutions. When you look at what some of these short-term accommodations are doing, we're talking about an extra 150, 160K, split two ways for this city. So that's another nice little boost. There are some potential solutions out there. Kingston is working with a third-party company to help with collection. The Tourism Industry Association of Ontario, we've chatted with them a couple of times. They've offered to get involved if needed. So I know that we've got a meeting actually coming up to talk about some potential solutions. And we've offered, because the way municipal accommodation tax works is, Bay Quinte Regional Marketing Board receives 50% as the eligible tourism entity, less administration. And so we've offered to potentially use some of those administrative costs from our Bay Quinte portion just to try and get things going, if that would be helpful. So we're happy to play an active role because there's a lot of cash out there for sure.
Thank you, Doug. Appreciate that. And the floor is open. So if people want to comment about stuff, we'll go back to Manager Post.
Thank you. There was just one thing I wanted to mention, that the issue around bed and breakfast, I guess, it's certainly broader than just the collection of the municipal accommodation tax. Bed and breakfasts are all scattered all over the city. And while we don't have a huge number of property standards or noise or parking complaints that are associated with those bed and breakfasts, there could very well become planning and bylaw enforcement issues related to bed and breakfasts. And without a comprehensive list of those businesses in the community, it makes it really difficult for the city to share those regulations and requirements and restrictions with those bed and breakfasts. So even though, yes, we'd like to collect the municipal accommodation tax, there's another side to identifying and licensing, or somehow working with those business owners as well.
Thank you, Manager Post. Edgerton, you had your hand up.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. I certainly agree 100% with Mayor Panchik on this issue. I remember years ago when I think it was Jack Miller and I sat on a tourism committee, and some of the hotels were paying into the program. Some of them weren't paying into the program. Then when the MAT tax came in, they all paid into it. And as well, I think it's time, as Karen says, to level the playing field, and regulations are so important nowadays. And people living in condominiums, I'm hearing about, how some of them see different neighbors every second day sort of thing. And we need to have regulations in place, and we need to know where they are, and they need to be paying their fair share of the taxes. It's not simply up to the hotels and motels in the community. So I fully support the mayor's letter, and I hope the committee supports it.
Thank you, Edgerton. I appreciate that. Catherine?
First, a question for Manager Post. Karen, have we had any discussions with Todd Davis down in the county in terms of all of the work that they've been doing? It's my understanding that they did find a way of putting a bylaw in place that required licensing. And certainly it's been in the news as recently as this week about how they will be mapping out all of the STAs in the county as a means from tourism, but also as a means to assist with bylaw enforcement.
Through the chair to Member Brown, yes, we have had some preliminary discussions with Prince Edward County. I wouldn't say that we've got a real strong handle yet on exactly how their system works, but that is something that we are actively looking into.
All right.
So Sean, from EDDC's perspective, is this something that, I mean, it certainly lines up with the strategic plan for EDDC, but something we could pursue in terms of the creation of a bylaw and a recommendation around as a city, how we will manage short-term accommodations that might facilitate the ability to be able to collect the MAT tax.
Yeah, the way I see this out, just hearing the conversations, and I've heard the conversations for the last couple of years, and being connected to the Bay Quinte Regional Marketing Board and Doug and his team. I mean, I guess we're asking people to be straight up, and they're not. I don't believe the staff have bylaw officers running around checking condos to see who's in and out. I think there has to be the honest factor here plays out, but that's not the reality we're living in. It's lost revenue. The Airbnb are on a different level than the Blair Gambles of the world, running a hotel, make that commitment when people stay there, paying the mat tax. I guess, Catherine, I'm looking for direction from the committee. Do we work with designing a bylaw? How do we get people to buy in? I know you referenced Todd Davies out in the county, and Prince Edward County seems to have, a handle on things. I think I would just like to go back and report back to council and the mayor that we've got something in place here, and it's going to be everything above board, if you will. Does that answer your question to some degree, Catherine? Or, Karen, I guess the question would be too, in 2019, the mat tax came in. A fair question would be, how come the city in 2 years doesn't have that relationship with Airbnb? As Edgerton Boyce referred to, he knows people that owns condos. Every 2 days there's somebody in and out of there. They're in town golfing or fishing or whatever. How could that be addressed?
That's a great question. So let me back up and say that we do have some of the bed and breakfast operators in the city who are remitting the 4% tax. It's not that none of them are. It's just there's a very select few that have come forward and remit the tax. There are lots we know that are not collecting or remitting the tax, and we simply don't have the manpower to identify them and go out. That's the only reason that we haven't pursued it. I think that the solution Prince Edward County has come up with is definitely something worth looking at. But we also know that there's some other options and opportunities out there around collection, remittance, licensing, and so on. And I think maybe what might make some sense is for staff to summarize all of those options, both the benefits and the drawbacks of each, and bring that back to the committee for consideration. And then from there, the committee can review it and make a recommendation on to council.
All right, thank you for that. If you'd like to say something, feel free. Blair, I'd love to hear what you think. You're in the hotel business and your perspective on this.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. From this letter from Mayor Panchik, I think this point is fully supported by my end. I mean, it's time to level that playing field. I know there has been some voluntary, and we appreciate those, but it's a big tax. I mean, adding 4% to every consumable, if you are selling shoes or selling, what have you, that's it's a big cost that we have to pass on to our clients. And we'd love to see that board flattened out. I think, as Ms. Brown pointed out, this fits squarely in with the strategic plan and with the terms of reference. I mean, it's measurable. I'd love to hear the report from staff as to what lost opportunity we've lost, what we can gain moving forward, because I think it's a big chunk of money, and I think we'd be able to realize quickly that we could find the resources to track that down.
Thank you, Blair. Appreciate that. Councillor Sanderson.
Yeah, thank you through the chair. So I would agree with the general comments that have been made so far. I think there's full support for moving forward with collecting MAT from SDAs. And so it comes down to just the framework. So if a bylaw happens to be the best framework that we can put forward, then that gives us the opportunity then to deal with issues of enforcement. But I think it's really important that, certainly, you rely on the honor factor to a large degree currently. But I think with a framework in place, it creates a discipline and an expectation that I think over time will just become part of the norm as it is with the major hotels today. So I think Karen's suggestion about taking a look at what's out there and maybe having a bit of a continued dialogue with what they're doing in Prince Edward County will help us formulate a bylaw that we can suggest or recommend to council.
All right, thanks. Thanks, Councillor Sanderson. Back to Blair.
Thank you, Chair. I just wanted to mention and maybe get some guidance on this. I don't know if we need to create a new bylaw. I believe we already have one in place. The municipal accommodations tax was a bylaw. It named all short-term accommodators. I think this is perhaps more of an enforcement issue than it is a law writing issue.
All right, thank you. Catherine?
I just wanted to follow on something that Councillor Sanderson mentioned, which is, I think it's broader, and I agree with you, Blair. It's broader than just a bylaw. I think it needs to be the whole framework around how does the city of Belleville manage through short-term accommodations. And I think that was why I was referring to what the county did, is the outcome is the bylaw and how you enforce it. But I think that there's more work to do in terms of how do we first identify and understand who our SPA providers are, and also in terms of how can we leverage that from a tourism perspective. Once we know who we have to some degree and get them to self-identify, then we have an opportunity to take it down in terms of promote short-term accommodations and what's available. I don't think anybody would believe that Belleville has anywhere from 100 to 150 STA locations in the city. So I think Bill's correct in that there's a larger framework that I think we need to create. And the outcome may be how do we add to the existing MAT bylaw or create a new one in terms of the elements that we identify, not only to enforce, but to promote.
Thanks, Catherine. So what I'm taking from the conversation then regarding the Airbnb manager post, you're going to put together something, do some research, and present at the next meeting, an update, and get the ball rolling here. Is that fair?
That's correct, Chair. And I just want to clarify that certainly Blair is correct that we don't need another bylaw in terms of the requirement to collect MAT tax. But if the city decides that they want to license or regulate in some other way the short-term accommodations, then we would need a separate bylaw to do that.
All right. Thanks, Karen. Councillor Alsop?
Yes, I just want to agree with those statements that certainly from a licensing perspective, it would also aid us in enforcement, because you could very easily pull up, the 3 or 4 major STA sites, look at the properties that are being listed and going, oh, this property here doesn't have a license. So once you know who is licensed, it becomes much more obvious who isn't. And so that would certainly aid in enforcement. I think the existing bylaw would serve its purpose, but we need to do the licensing bylaw as well. And it is important that we do level the playing field in the same way that Uber sort of disrupted the taxi business. That's what's happening right now, where we have hotels that are regulated that are having to collect this 4% tax and then remit it, which makes them 4% less competitive in a way. So we need to make sure that we're getting the STAs all on the same bandwagon. And I think that where Airbnb is upset that they're sort of being unfairly penalized, they are the market leader, and sometimes when you pull that far ahead of the market, you do have to bear the brunt of some of the legislation first. So I think it's a little bit funny that they're upset that everyone isn't being held to the same standard as them, when clearly they have set a new standard for that industry, and it should fall on them first to feel some of the pushback.
All right, thank you, Councillor Alsop. Any other comments? Okay, so thanks, Karen. We look forward to that update and your research paper on Airbnb. Also in the mayor's letter dated April 30th, he's hoping that we can make some progress with working with physician recruitment here in the city of Belleville and specific healthcare providers. We're looking for ideas how to attract, and we have attracted 40 doctors since 2007. You read that in the mayor's letter. About $4.6 million of Lexicon dividends for that. And Karen and I spoke this morning. She has an update now for us as well on doctor and healthcare recruitment.
Thank you, Chair Kelly. So just to give the committee a bit of an idea around how the current program works. So we've had a family physician recruitment program in place since 2006, 2007. As Chair Kelly mentioned, we've attracted about 40 physicians. 36 of those are family physicians and 4 are specialists that were identified as having a particular need in the community. How it works, the city will only sign physicians who are students. So they have to have not chosen a community before. Very early on, the city decided that they would not poach a family physician from another community. We would hate it if someone did that to us. So we typically don't do that. So we tend to target students. So a student in med school, anywhere from year 1 in med school right to their last day of residency, is eligible for the standard physician recruitment program. We sign with them a return of service agreement. So we will provide them with $150,000 in return for a minimum 5-year commitment of service to the community. The $150,000 payment is based on what we determined was the average debt load of a family physician when they finish their training. So they're in med school for at least, or they're in post-secondary for at least 10 years, a 4-year undergrad plus another 6 years of med school minimum. So that $150,000 is paid to those physicians at $25,000 a year for 6 years in return for that 5-year commitment of service. By far, the majority of the physicians that we have signed have stayed in the community much longer than their 5-year commitment. Every physician has stayed for their 5 years. We did have 2 that did have to leave partway through their 5-year term, but they paid all of their funds back, and it was a reason that was out of their control. That's why they had to leave the community. There were family issues. So the program has been very successful. We still have a growing number of people being added to the Healthcare Connect list of orphan patients. We do know that we have several physicians who will be retiring in the next several years, which will increase the demand for family physician service. I think what Mayor Panchak has asked us to take a look at is, are there other healthcare professionals that we should be incenting or encouraging to come to this region to serve our residents? And that's something that we're willing to take a look at. We have had conversations with our Ministry of Health or our Ontario Health advisors. So we work very closely with them on the process of physician recruitment. We've talked with them about sort of best practices in other communities when it comes to attracting other healthcare professionals, whether they be specialists or lab technicians or other technicians. And they've had some really great advice for us in terms of the best way to incent, particularly when many of those professionals, well, for example, family physicians are like independent businesses. So they can decide where they practice, how they practice. They are quite independent. They have to bill Ontario Health, but they're pretty independent practitioners. If we were to, let's say, incent a laboratory technician, they are not an independent business. They are an employee of, let's say, a hospital or a private sector business, something like that. So the process to incent someone like that to stay in the community or come to the community is quite different. So it's rather a complicated thing to look at when you start looking to encourage or attract other healthcare professionals. So we've started that process and we plan to come back with some information and some recommendations for this committee.
All right, thanks, Manager Post. I just wanted to get some ideas, go around the talent here and talk of ways that we can attract doctors to our area and nurse practitioners and healthcare providers. And are we doing enough in our own backyard? I know we have 5+ high schools. Are we having those conversations with students and guidance departments? Are we speaking to grade 7 and 8 students that might have a potential for, you know, getting into the healthcare profession? I just hope that we're doing all of that, and I think we are. Sometimes we forget about people that you know, leave a high school in grade 12 and go on to university and make a different career choice after a couple of years of university. They could be in the healthcare and we're not even aware of it. And I think we can nurture our relationships there. So that's where I'm at. Councillor Alsop, you had your hands up. You got an idea to attract a doctor?
Well, you sort of mentioned in the second half there, I was thinking about nurse practitioners particularly. I know there's been a lot of discussion about that in the past, and certainly I think that would be a good direction to go in. As someone who is not from a healthcare background, I don't exactly understand the difference in terms of what the occupational capabilities are, but my understanding is that would certainly help lessen the load for a lot of issues that people are having in the community. And probably the schooling would be more affordable. So it'd be a matter of simply scaling the payouts and the time period. Now there is still the employment issue. So maybe we would have to run that through an employer. So there might be a process where you would sign on with an employer and then we would incentivize the employer to guarantee your employment. That could be a direction to go as well. But certainly I would be in favor of putting RPNs into the program as well.
All right, thanks. Anybody else have any ideas? Blair?
Yeah, thank you, Chair. So as much as I supported Mayor Panchev's first point in the letter, this one I'm a little more wary. I'm not sure that this is necessarily the focus of this committee. We spoke of the great success this program already has, recruiting some 40-some physicians. We've talked often about duplication, whether or not we want to wade into this. I don't know that this necessarily fits with the terms of reference or the strategic plan, as important as it is, and my goodness, is it ever important, right? And we know the city is one big web and everything's interconnected, but I think sometimes we might want to narrow our focus a little bit. We speak of, determining which specific healthcare providers this community might need. I certainly don't have the expertise to answer that question. I mean, we could get together and survey employers, as Councillor Alsop mentioned, but I just wonder if this is the direction we want to go.
Thank you. Anybody else with some thoughts on this? Jill Raycroft.
So both good points. And I think to Karen's initial comment that we can't probably control much where it's a public entity. But if we did know which private practitioners, I'm thinking you've got physiotherapists as well. There are a number of occupational therapists. There are a number of different healthcare providers that provide a holistic healthcare approach in our community. This is what attracts people to come when they know that they have access to that. From an economic development perspective, I believe that that's important, and that's where our connection is. Flip it over to the other side. How do we connect with our high school students? To your point, Councillor Kelly, Chair, that, are we talking to our grade 7 and 8s about the program that Belleville has in place to keep youth here? Because that's what I hear the most is once somebody goes away to university, they have no intention of coming back. So from a tourism perspective or a local love perspective, that's where Bay of Quinte Marketing and the Chamber through Visitor Services and Discover Belleville can work to creating this as a place that people love to live in. And maybe it's continuing to engage with our youth to suggest this is a great place to come back to as well. So I think we could kind of gather around this on a lot of different levels, and whether some money to incentivize at the end of the day comes out of MAT or some other funding that's kind of appropriated or a recommendation, I think we could probably support actively even without money to promote the program.
Thank you, Jill. Stephanie. Just unmute there.
Yes. Yeah, I got you. Okay, through the chair. Yes, and I am a little bit, because my business very significantly with Queens, obviously, which is really close down the road. But as we know, many Canadians don't even go to school for medical school here in Canada. That is the reality. They can't get in. So like I have family members that have gone to Australia. So to get them back many times after residency, it's difficult. So immigration is a huge avenue, I think, to recruit, because people that are actually coming to Canada, sometimes Canadians are going outside and not coming back into the country because they actually can't get back in because they're treated in the same boat as the immigrant people. Like there's two pools actually of people that get hired as doctors here. So I think just like it was said before, I think recruiting or having it out there, really advertising, you know, in the Queens area, McMaster areas that are here would be valuable massively to that. Just
Thank you, Stephanie. And I know it's 150,000 over 5, but really, I think that our selling point is lifestyle, family. Like, we have so many other options in this area that they would want to call home. Let's go to Doug Stevenson.
Thanks through you, Chair. Just want to make sure the committee's aware that, you know, we got Martha Farrell over there at QHC who's working actively in a recruitment role to bring medical professionals here. So that's an asset depending on the direction the committee wants to go. And also just a note that I've made to Martha and also to Manager Post in the past, you know, we at the Bay Quinte Regional Marketing Board, it's not our mandate to be a part of doctor recruitment, but it is our mandate to be a part of resident attraction. And so we're certainly open to staff time and budget devoted to this. We did help Docs by the Bay, who manage physician recruitment for Quinte West and Belleville, to produce a recruitment video last year. And so certainly open to a conversation.
Thank you, Doug. Edgerton Boyce. Edgerton, you were part of this back in 07 when it started. Your thoughts today in 2021?
Yeah, I still look the same many years ago. But I certainly agree with the mayor again on this one. I think it's our mandate in order, we're doing business retraction and expansion. And I think it's important that our group looks at the idea that we've got to not only attract the doctors, but keep them. So I think that it's important that our committee looks at ideas. And I know Karen will agree that many times when an industry comes to the area, they're asking, you know, what kind of amenities are here? What's your healthcare like? Are employees able to get physicians easily enough? So I think it's important that we try to keep our doctors, and I certainly agree that we should look at specialists as well with this attraction. And I think we can also target, and I had the opportunity on a couple occasions with my former partner to go to the University Queens, some of their, when they were hosting, this was emergency doctors, but they were hosting retreats. And I was able to go to a couple of retreats, and I asked some of the doctors, you know, what brings you to, you know, what makes you decide on the community? And they looked at a lot of the amenities that the community had to offer before they made their decision. And I think I think Karen's department are doing a lot, but I think we need to target McGill and McMaster and our next door neighbors at Queens, and target some of those classes and to try to bring these people into the community, the doctors. So I think it is our mandate, because we're trying to attract businesses, and we're also trying to attract doctors at the same time, and that's how we attract businesses.
Thank you, Edgerton. Appreciate it. Karen will give you the final word on this. Next steps.
Okay, so yeah, there's been a lot of talk about some great ideas. Some of them we have thought of and thought through, some of them we haven't. So we will do our best to put together a comprehensive report for the committee to review with some suggestions and ideas. Our hope, of course, is that report generates more suggestions and ideas, so that we can have a really creative proposal going forward to council in terms of attracting healthcare professionals, including physicians. We always have to be mindful, and I know I sound like a broken record. I'm going to say that in our department, physician recruitment probably takes up about 10% of one person's time. When you look at what Docs on the Bay and Quinte West is doing, they're doing some amazing things, but they do have a full-time permanent physician recruiter, plus you know, they take a fair bit of time of the CAO's time as well. So they have a lot of resources. So whatever suggestion, I guess, that we take forward to council has to keep in mind what resources that we have, or make recommendations around changes in resources. There's so much we would love to be doing. We just haven't had the opportunity to do it. So we'll put all that into a report for consideration. For the
all right. Thank you, Manager Post. You know, I spoke to a couple that moved to Belleville a couple of years ago, and I asked, why did you decide on Belleville? And they talked about healthcare, schools was number one. What kind of facility would their kids go to school, and recreation. So I think we do very well on all three. We're going to go down to item number 7, deputations. Desta McAdam, she's the manager of the policy planning. She's going to give us an update on the Belleville Community Improvement Plan. Desta, we look forward to your 8-minute presentation.
Kelly. Thank you, Councillor Kelly. I will be brief. Thanks for inviting me here to this meeting to speak about the CIP. So just to give a brief overview of what the CIP is, CIP stands for our Community Improvement Plan, and a CIP allows the city to direct funds towards specific projects that encourage development or redevelopment that would meet specific goals. So our new CIP has 4 specific goals, which include the first one to be facilitate affordable housing, secondly, to support downtown revitalization, third, to turn over brownfields for economic development and for environmental benefits. And then there's a 4th overarching goal, which is to improve the quality of life and community health for the city. So the CIP works by offering specific programs that financially incentivize the types of projects that we think will help us achieve these goals. Since our CIP is quite widespread in its goals, we have programs that relate to establishing affordable rental housing, downtown revitalization projects, as well as brownfield remediation and redevelopment projects. So the financial incentivization that is offered through these programs could be in various forms. So it could be in the form of a rebate or a deferral of an eligible cost for a targeted project. So an example of this would be a rebate program that homeowners could apply to recoup some of the costs associated with establishing a second unit in their house. So that's one of our programs that we offer. So we actually have a second unit program for people who have existing houses who wish to renovate their home to create a second unit. And we also have a program that offers a rebate for people who are looking at constructing a new house and adding that second unit in from the onset. So that's kind of an example of a rebate program that we have here. Alternatively, we have programs that offer tax increment rebate incentives for new affordable rental housing projects, downtown above residential above commercial projects, as well as brownfield redevelopment projects. We call these our tier programs. And these programs work by rebating all or a portion of the municipal tax increase, which occurs as a result of development. And what happens is that rebate occurs over a 10-year period. So basically, it helps shield the developer or builder from the tax increase experienced from creating this type of development that we are looking to achieve in the city. So all of these programs, it's important to note, have very specific eligibility requirements, and they're all described very, and very logically in our CIP document that's available online. So anyone can go to belleville.ca/CIP and be connected to the webpage that has all of this information, including our pre-consultation forms and application forms. So they can see if the project that they're looking to do is eligible for any of these financial incentive programs. And the intent of having this eligibility criteria is simply just to make sure that we are supporting projects that will help us achieve those 4 goals that I outlined initially here. So the intent of the CIP is not only to help these projects get off the ground, but to help them move forward faster so that we can experience the community improvement benefit from them sooner as well as a community. See here. So yeah, we're looking for projects that are, ready to go, but just need that support to happen faster or get off the ground. So what has been approved by council is a CIP, so a community improvement plan with a total of 17 different programs. So this is quite a range of different programs. Based on the budget that we have for year 1, staff will be bringing forward a recommendation report to activate 12 of the 17 programs, simply because, of course, being that all of these programs offer a different financial incentive, there is a significant financial demand to run these programs, but also, you know, a great potential benefit for the projects that could come out of them. So right now, staff are recommending really focusing on using our tier programs, that tax increment equivalent rebate program, to fund, to fund some of the larger projects, as we see it as a more sustainable approach financially. Now, from a budget standpoint, we know that for year one of the CIP, so this year of the CIP, we're working with a budget of $85,000 for our facade improvement programs specifically. This is a really successful suite of programs that's already been active in our former downtown CIP, and we really wanted to continue the success of those programs and dedicate specific funds to ensuring that our downtown facade improvement programs can continue to run as they have been in previous years. Now, for the other active programs that we're proposing, there would be a total budget of around $850,000 for the first year. And it's intended that the CIP budget would increase as we progress through the lifespan of the CIP, so of the plan. But each year's budget would be subject to council approval, and that would happen in annual budget deliberations. So I know time is of the essence, so that's just an extremely high-level overview of our community improvement plan. You can visit the city's website and review the document, and Tom and myself are here to answer any questions that the committee may have.
Thanks, Desta. Councillor McCaw.
Through you, Chair Kelly. That's typically just a couple of things, because I haven't thoroughly gone through the CIP, and maybe I should take the time to do that. But I mean, I'm totally in favor of the tax rebates and the rebate incentives you speak of for those putting in the secondary suites. My question is, in that, is there a time frame that they have to use that secondary suite and rent it out? Is there any type of security to say that they don't just take our money, build the secondary suite, it increases the value of their property, and they make $200,000 more for their home? I'm just curious on that front.
Definitely. So monitoring is an extremely important aspect of our CIP, and really is what's going to help determine the success of the CIP program. So we want to make sure that when we are providing funds, that they are going to support the goal of the CIP, which is to provide more rental housing in this specific situation of taking second units as an example. So basically, the second unit must be a bona fide rental housing unit for 5 years, and it can't be used as a short-term rental accommodation. So it has to go towards the city's housing market, not its STA market. Otherwise, the rebate would need to be repaid to the city. So the second unit programs is in the form of a rebate. So there would be the repercussion that would need to be repaid. Now, of course, this involves yearly monitoring from a staff standpoint. So that is something that we will be needing to do as we follow up on these on any successful applicant programs. And similarly, there's a requirement that the home must be owner occupied during the same duration. Again, this is also to assist Belleville residents in creating a second unit in their homes to increase the supply of rental housing across the city. So we definitely have monitoring requirements built into our CIP programs, which any applicant needs to agree to when they apply.
Thanks.
Follow up, if I might. Can I just follow up with what we're talking about? Just one more question.
Yeah.
Okay. So with regard to the follow up and all of that, just a scenario: someone sells their home. Does that particular agreement carry on to the new owner? And if so, enforcement, can it be done by way of something on title that would? You see things like heritage. There'll be something on title with heritage with a heritage home, that you have regulations about what you can and can't do. So in that sort of same realm of things, is that something that we will do to be able to control what's happening with the owner, whether it sells to a new owner, whether the new owner is bound by the same terms of the original owner, that type of thing?
Yeah, that's a great question. So we're exploring the ways to create an agreement with the homeowners for second units, because we do want to make the process accessible to people. And so I think right now we're looking at exploring creating an agreement with the homeowner, but not one that is, for second units at least, not one that's registered on the title of the home, although that is an option. But that's thing that we're looking at in order to make the path to those people that are coming in for this rebate most accessible. And then with respect to the home changing over, that's an interesting an interesting thing, because especially with second units, it's a one-time rebate. So it's not something that is provided on, over a 10-year period, such as the tax increment rebate programs. That would be an agreement registered on title, because there's yearly financial implications. So in this case, I suppose we would need to determine how we would deal with a home being sold in that process, and if that ends their incentive, and if they haven't established a 5-year rental by that time, perhaps that would be reason that the rebate shouldn't have been applied, because then effectively the city would lose control between the person who applied for the rebate program and the second unit.
Well, and I just say that simply because from having a real estate background, you realize these secondary suites could increase the value of the property, which then to the homeowner passes that value on to, the buyer of that property is paying more for it, but now maybe they don't want to be obligated to rent it anymore. This opens a whole lot of questions and, things that I think probably as a city we need to cover ourselves on. But no, I think generally it sounds like we've thought of all of those things, or most of them. But thank you.
Thank you. Thanks, Councillor McCaw.
Thank you, Kelly. Thank you, Councillor McCaw, for those questions. Good stuff. Councillor Sanderson.
Thank you. Through the chair, would like to make a few comments on the SIP program. It's basically the outcome from the Housing Summit in 2019, where one of the many objectives that we created was to come up with a plan to create 1,000 additional rental units by 2025. And I'm happy to report that, we're well on our way to that number, and the SIP program hasn't kicked in yet. So I think we're going to achieve and overachieve that number. I don't know if it's a first of its kind in Ontario, but it's certainly unique. And I was approached a couple months ago by the former Speaker of the House, MPP Steve Peters, who retired from provincial politics and is now a sitting member on the council in St. Thomas. And so they are looking at what we've done and looking to piggyback on the good work that Desta and the folks in planning have done in putting this together. In terms of financial commitment, Desta touched on it, but the entire program, when you package it, it's a $13 million program, and it's looking to, as I said, provide accommodation, and the byproducts of that is, we've got employees for businesses, and it fills a screaming need in our rental shortage market. So just wanted to add those comments. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thanks, Councillor Sanderson. Edgerton Boyce. You have to turn your mic on, Edgerton.
My apologies. And I think maybe Councillor Sanderson may have answered. I was going to ask, I had heard $850,000 was is it what the city's committing to that 13 million, or where does the $13 million come from? And I'm going to ask, is there a certain amount of money per property? I know brownfields included in this, and as we know from some of the properties in the city that have applied for brownfield funding, that money goes very quickly. And so is it 850,000 or is it 13 million? And is 850,000 the city's allotment to it per year? And is there a maximum amount per property?
So I'll answer a portion of that and then turn it over to Desta. So the 850 is year one. It's a 10-year program, and the 13 million is over the 10 years. And I think the brownfield is outside of the SIP program. It's handled separately. And Desta, I don't know whether you can provide a number in terms of what's been budgeted or allocated for brownfield this year.
Of course. So Councillor Sanderson's 100% correct. The year one CIP budget without the brownfield programs is the $850,000. And then that there would be yearly annual budgets dedicated by council. So it's all municipally funded to a total of approximately $13 million over the course of 10 years. And then from a brownfield perspective, currently we're looking at maintaining an existing brownfield budget of $50,000 per year. And so that would run in a separate account. Now, with respect to the maximum amount of money per property, that's a great question. And it truly is dependent on the type of project. Some projects will be capped at the maximum amount of funding that they're able to receive in the program that they're applying for. For instance, a second unit, creating a second unit in a house, enables a rebate of $2,500 versus, say, an affordable rental housing development where there's multiple housing units and they're perhaps looking to apply to our tier programs. Then the number could be much larger because basically the number that they could be eligible for rebate for would be the potential increment between the tax assessment of the property prior to development versus after development as an affordable rental development. So it will really depend on the budget that the city has available and what the city feels comfortable in funding, these larger projects. So it's a little hard to say because some projects will and properties will be limited based on what program they're able to apply for and what the type of development they're applying for. And other projects may be more limited with respect to what the budget the city has, to be able to fund the potential tax increment that experienced on that property. So it will be a matter of weighing, the potential benefits of the project versus the allocated budget, which is why we, from a municipal perspective, will have an internal staff working group with senior finance staff involved in this working group to make sure that we're making financially sustainable recommendations for funding of these larger projects.
Thanks,
Okay.
Desta.
And can I ask just a final then? Out of the 850,000 for year one, is the 85,000 from the facade improvement part of that 850,000?
That's actually in addition to that. So for year one, council provided an additional 85 to maintain the downtown and facade improvement programs.
Excellent.
Thank you. That's good. Thanks, Edgerton. Thanks, Desta, for that report. We're coming into an hour already. Good discussion today, moving along here. And I hope to have everybody enjoying their lunch before noon. So just keep that in mind. Let's welcome our next speaker today with a deputation. She celebrated her birthday earlier this week, so belated wishes to Jill Raycroft from the Chamber.
Thank you. I did. It doesn't happen on the Monday of the holiday weekend very often. So it was a special year in spite of COVID. And I got my shot yesterday. So late birthday.
Good for you.
Yeah. Okay. So I'm going to share my screen and hopefully that won't be too awkward. And we tested this out earlier. And I know Sean says he's going to show me a little poster if I go over 10 minutes. I'll do my best. I thought it would be easier to put this into a presentation just to give you an idea of some of the things. So on behalf of the Belleville Chamber of Commerce, for those watching in YouTube land, I'm Jill Raycroft, and this is our presentation on behalf of the contracts that we hold with the city regarding city events and visitor services. So let's go, move forward. There. So with regard to city events, anybody who followed us last year knows that we did a few things that were outside of our norm. We typically plan 3 family festivals and do Canada Day, Waterfront, and the Santa Claus Parade. So this year, or last year, what we did were some alternative things, including curbside culture. So this year we are still planning within those pandemic protocols. So the approach is going to be that we'll look at smaller, more frequent entertainment features in safe outdoor spaces with limited gathering. Hopefully we'll see something move up and open up more in the fall, but we continue to partner with other organizations to build on family favorites. And there's an $80,000 plus investment from the city contract, plus cash and in-kind contributions from community partners. That was one thing we really worked on last year, was to try and enhance. It's a relationship that we've benefited from greatly with the downtown district the past couple of years. And so we started to reach out to other partners. So this is an example of some of the things we've got going on. Just want to say in 2019, for some background, the total cost of events was nearly $250,000, with $205,000 coming from community sponsorships, grants, and revenue. Keeping in mind that sponsorships, revenue, and even grants were completely eliminated. We're almost nearly eliminated in 2020. All of the events that we put on to the cost of about $37,000 came directly from the city contract. Typically, we use that money to cover site services, and this time it was purposed to actually pay for the cost of the entertainment. In 2021, we are looking at that $80,000 coming from the city contract. We have $26,000 from sponsorships that were deferred from last year. And we have about $33,000 coming in this year from community sponsorships and grants. It's a far cry from the 205 that we normally have, but we do see some activity coming back with regard to businesses in the area. So we have a Lions Club virtual concerts on the bay. We are bringing back curbside culture. We're adding buskers on the bay. We are doing a market in the park. We have Lions Live, and then Drive By Christmas. So the Lions Club concert series will be a virtual program again this year, presented by the City of Belleville Lions Club. They reached out to us, asked if we would be willing to partner with them again. There are 14 scheduled acts. These will be broadcasted via YouTube, open to anyone. The Chamber will own the footage, and Your TV will also broadcast to subscribers. What we did last year was Your TV came on board and partnered with us in an unprecedented way to make these YouTube links of the recorded events available to anybody, something that had never happened before. So we thank them greatly for their participation, but they weren't able to do that this year. So this year, if the Empire Theaters come on board, the recording will be taking place there. The technical support will come from them, and through the chamber, artists are coordinated and managed by Susan Walsh. We had originally scheduled our first recording session to start on May 29th, but it's now been rescheduled to July 18th. 10 regional acts are going to be included, and they'll be recorded June 26th, 27th. We're already looking at an alternative date because we're not so sure we're going to be able to do that. But here's a quick list. We've got Deja Vu, Kathy Willen and Friends, The Offbeats, Heartland Country, Look Up, Look Way Up, Chelsea Road, Fiddleheads, White Brothers, The Reasons, and The Shadows, all going to be gracing the Empire stage. That will be broadcast as soon as we can get those recordings up and running. We also have 4 cover acts that were scheduled, and some of these were actually scheduled to be part of Waterfront last year. So it's a deferred expense actually on our behalf. So we have Elton Ron, we have ABBA Revisited, Ambush, and Jersey Nights. So all of these are great entertainers that we're excited to be able to feature and support. Sorry, just wanted to say we have over 75 artists being represented through the program this year. So that's Lions Club of Belleville Virtual Concerts on the Bay. Canada Day. So last year's modified event was quite popular, so we will repeat that. So we included a vehicle procession and instead of a parade because we weren't allowed to gather. This passed by all long-term care homes and healthcare centers. And we also opened a Community Heroes nomination program that included presentations from the MP, MPP, the mayor at the Belleville sign. We understand it's at West Wicks, so that's where we're hoping to bring it. We're going to be rejigging it because we had some logistics with the delays experienced last year. So the nominations will be open shortly, and we'll close them by June 10th so we can make sure that we have that. So if anybody knows of anybody who has been a community hero, last year we had about 20-25 people represented from everything from manufacturing to frontline healthcare workers and all of the people in behind the scenes that have kind of taken us through the last 16 months of the pandemic. Curbside culture. So anybody who was familiar with the original Folklorama program realized that this was a throwback to the Passport program that used to be involved back in the 70s, that then evolved into what we know and love as the Ethnic Food Village at the Waterfront Festival, which is now the Multicultural Festival that we hope to bring back next year. In the meantime, we revived this Passport program to feature international food venues throughout Belleville. What we are adding to it this year is that the promotional material or that passport will be valid throughout the summer. So it won't be exclusively to the 3 days of the takeout food adventure, but we'll have information that will be of value to anyone coming into the community and wondering where they might be able to find different food. This means that we will also feature downtown district restaurants. We've confirmed French, Canadian, Mexican as the countries or cultures we're representing. The waterfront pop-ups, which also include India, Jamaica, and Syria. We have featured countries for the weekend at the fairgrounds that will include Germany, Italy, Thailand, and some carnival treats. And then throughout the city, we have locations that represent Atlantic Canada and Tibet. This is not necessarily finalized, and we are continuing to reach out to potential partners. We are also, because we'll be able to this year, feature some multicultural musical entertainment over the course of that weekend. Still to be determined, but we're looking at a few really great acts that we've had participate with Waterfront in the past and other of our partners who have access to good artists as well. Buskers on the Bay. So this is going to be a new event. So typically through our 4-day festival at Zwicks Park, there are a ton of buskers. We have a lot of children entertainers, and we found the last couple of years that this was a huge draw for people and really added some entertainment. So we're going to do 9 days of buskers at West Zwicks. We anticipate right now this will take place on Sunday afternoons from 1 till 4. A less busy time perhaps, but may also offer some attraction and support the waterfront pop-ups if people are thinking about doing other things. We're going to start beginning that late July to run through September, and it concludes with the Lions Live event, which I'll be talking about shortly. It will also provide additional entertainment for events we have coming up in September that we hope will be live. That includes Market in the Park and Lions Live. Market in the Park, September 12th. So this is going to feature 20 to 25 local artisans. They are, you may remember them from the Downtown District Side Hustle. We had them all queued up to come last year in September, and we were shut down the day before. So we're going to revisit this idea, and we believe we'll be able to go ahead with it this year. So partners and beneficiaries for the September 12th date are Buskers on the Bay. So we'll have them both Saturday and Sunday. The Kiwanis Kids Kite Festival is scheduled for the same day. It'll be held at East Wicks, and of course the waterfront pop-ups will still be open. We are hoping that we may be able to bring in a possible midway attraction, whether that's a Ferris wheel or a merry-go-round or something dependent on phase 3 reopening. How am I doing for time? Okay, so Lions Live, September 19th. We are hoping that gathering will allow for live event. This would bring us with Al Langlade with a Trilogy Classics Live and an Escape to Laurel Canyon that does California Dreaming. These were also ones that were commissioned for last year. And this ultimately comes up to this is like an investment of about $26,000 plus contributions from Lions Club, Empire Theater, and other community partners. The whole musical feature that we're bringing in this year will provide performing opportunities to over 75 artists. So holiday celebrations, we have Drive By Christmas and Home for the Holidays. Santa will drive by us or we will drive by him on November 21st. We have confirmed availability of the fairgrounds for assembly to continue along Bridge Street route to Bayview Mall if we can do that again. The alternative, which would be a drive-by location, we are looking at a couple of different spots where we can do that in consultation with the Belleville Police Service. The other thing we kind of dreamed up last year at the last minute in partnership with Habitat, Crime Stoppers, and the Children's Safety Village, because they all did festival kind of events around the holidays, was Home for the Holidays. And this year we're looking at continuing the partnership with the Downtown District, the Festival of Lights, and other city lighting initiatives. Last year we had nearly 50 homes that entered or were nominated for their seasonal decorating displays, and the prizes were provided by the city and grand prize by Crime Stoppers. So we're hoping we'll be able to continue with that and engage more participation from the community. And we had maps, thanks to Tom Stanning, he was here, created a map for us, and we were able to put together some great little locations, drive-by routes for the Home for the Holidays decorating contest. So I just wanted to take 2 seconds to also talk about visitor services, because this is also part of the work that we do for the city. And I've mentioned it before, but I see us as the warm hug representing the friendly city, even though we don't call ourselves that anymore, but I feel we are. So we look very closely to the Bay of Quinte Marketing Board to bring people to our community. We're the ones who greet them when they get here. We've reconfigured the log cabin space for a public area. And this is an example of our new, we've repainted our cabinets in this beautiful bimini and turquoise, reminiscent of summer. And we are also looking forward to adding a merchandise space. We get asked for t-shirts all the time, postcards, and other mementos and souvenirs of the area. Right now, we're open by appointment to June 2nd, and we anticipate as non-essential retail to open fully in our July, I put my blue door. This is also, we've just repainted the blue door, because what else do you do during a pandemic but renovate? So this is our blue information door, also representative of the chamber, and all fun things like that. It pops. Not a great picture, my apologies. I thought you might like to see what we've done. The other piece is the Discover Belleville. We consider this the virtual log cabin, and we have been working very hard for the past couple of years to develop from the visitbelleville.ca site to the discoverbelleville.ca site and building some branding around that. You'll see that we have the hashtag Discover Belleville. We are doing our branding through website, social media, and we have a newsletter that started in March. We also have local businesses that are starting to use the hashtag Discover Belleville. And our social media reach across Instagram and Facebook continues to grow. You'll see here on the bottom on this little chart. So in May of 2020, we had a little over 1,000 followers on Instagram. We've expanded that by almost another 1,500. And our reach in 2021 over Facebook has expanded, and largely in part due to the Belleville Sign Wars. So if anybody has seen the Belleville Sign Wars, I have to give credit to Anna for starting that. And we've had some great participation. Interestingly enough, with a sign bylaw in Belleville that doesn't allow for many, a lot of them have gone virtual, and that's been a fantastic invention or pivot, as we would call during the pandemic. We also noticed that a lot of our audience with regard to Instagram and Facebook is predominantly local, which is great because we want to be a local resource. But our discoverbelleville.ca is nearly 70% from away. So that discoverbelleville.ca website is working really well to give information to people that aren't local, and our local social media is working that way. We have Discover Belleville website newsletter. We have a campaign coming up regarding the Belleville Guide I'll talk about in a second. And we are also talking about developing a Discover Belleville coloring book that will feature Belleville landmarks and experiences. And we may even expand that to a coloring pad that could be used for next year for kids in restaurants, that kind of thing. The Discover Belleville Guide, I know this is really officially launching next week, so you guys hear it here first, but we've printed 5,000 this year. Part of the problem is visitor services across the province remain closed. We're sending them where we can. Typically, we would print about 15,000. We are increasing our presence with hotels locally, tourist venues, and regional. We are always interested in reaching out to the Airbnb locations, STAs. Interestingly enough, we got completely locked down. The Belleville Chamber of Commerce can no longer book an Airbnb because we started sending them messages they thought was spam. So that's our challenge, but we're continuing to work on that. So we're totally invested in finding out who these providers are. There will be a public guide lunch on June 1st. And this will be the kickoff to a Discover Your Backyard summer photo scavenger hunt, aimed to engage our local audience, feature their love for our community, weekly themes of what to find in Belleville that focus on trails, treats, shopping, landmark, and there will be monthly prize giveaways. That's also supported greatly by the city, so we appreciate their engagement with this too, and Anna and Alicia have been working really hard to make this possible. And that's what I've got. So, any questions?
Thank you, Jill. Appreciate that. Looks like lots of exciting things rolling out with the chamber. Good luck with them. And I don't see any questions. Okay. Thanks again, Jill. Just due to time restrictions here, we're going to ask the Economic Development Activity Report that was attached in our minutes. You had a chance to read it. Do you have a question for Manager Post? Seeing none, okay, we're going to move down to the holiday market update and the pop-ups. Alicia is going to give us an update on that. And Alicia, I just going to ask you just to respect the time factor. I hate to do that, but we're really tight for time.
No problem, I can be quick. So in terms of the holiday market, we have had some preliminary discussions with partners being BIA and Bay of Quinte. So very preliminary at this point with staff from those organizations, but we are looking at how we could incorporate that as part of the Enchanted event that's already branded for downtown during that time of year. It has taken place sort of mid-November to mid-December prior to Christmas, so we see that as being a good fit. In terms of next steps, we're planning on reaching out to other partners, which would include the farmers market and other Christmas market groups that have already formed and have some brands built and some vendor connections. Between now and the next meeting, we'll be having that meeting with those partners, getting a solid plan in place that's collaborative and creating a budget. And then we'll be planning to present a more detailed report with a budget request in June.
All right. Thank you. And anything else you want to add today?
Oh, sorry.
Anything else?
Yes. That's everything for holiday market.
Okay. And then you're up next on the pop-ups too.
Okay, so since the provincial rollout plan was announced, we've been busy because we've had to revise a number of elements as part of our overall site plan. So we had a meeting with the health unit reps on Tuesday, and we've resubmitted our site plan. So we're just waiting for approval on that. Assuming everything goes well with the new proposed site plan, we'll be looking at a mid-June opening.
Thank you, Lisa. Oh, sorry.
Sorry, just quickly, in addition to that, we've commissioned 14 artists to do murals on all of the pop-up containers. So we have 2 artists on site this week. We'll be rolling that out over social media, promoting those artists, and then we'll have artists on site each week during murals at the site.
Thank you. And just real quick, with the pop-ups on the Bay, the way the numbers are going right now in the province, we've had our lowest yesterday, I think, in many months. If the numbers continue to drop, more vaccinations, that's really the key now, the percentage of people vaccinated. Will that fence come down at Westwicks Park for the pop-ups?
So actually part of our revised site plan would eliminate the fence around the perimeter of the area, and it will be looking at using those fence panels to create dedicated lineup areas at each individual pop-up. So we've actually already eliminated the fence around the area as a whole.
Good stuff. Thank you. Any questions for Alicia? Seeing none, we're going to move on to item number 12. It's the industrial land update. Karen, manager post.
Sure. I just wanted to give the committee an update. As the committee knows, the city does have an inventory of industrial land that we keep available for sale to attract industry. We are challenged at the moment in terms of the sort of supply of land that we have, but I wanted to let the committee know we are dealing with some offers, some inquiries, and we are working with our engineering department to advance the environmental assessment for the expansion of the Northeast Industrial Park as well. So all of those things are advancing at a very good pace.
All right, thanks, Karen. You can also address the next issue on our agenda.
Yes, so Bree, we had the survey before the committee last meeting. IT is now putting it into that Survey Monkey format, and we'll be rolling it out very shortly.
All right, thank you for that. Next on the agenda is the update from our partner organizations. They were asked to submit a report. Most did. Hopefully you've had a chance to read that. And again, we thank our partners with the committee. And I want to get this in real quick. Janet is here from Quinte Arts Council. Janet, I love this magazine. Well done. And I love the article on Don Miracle, the musician, stone carver. That was well done. Janet, you've got 15 seconds.
15 seconds.
It was well done.
Thanks very much, Sean.
That was excellent. Okay, next, new business, residence guide discussion. Karen, who are we going to that for? Is it you?
Well, I guess I can get it started. So this came out of a conversation with Ruth Estwicks from the Quinte Home Builders about having some kind of a resource that we would be able to provide to newcomers in the community. So folks moving to the area that, just helps them get oriented in the community. It can also be used as a sales tool or a bit of a marketing brochure around coming and moving to the community. Emily, I don't know if you've got anything to add from the home builders perspective, but this is something that's been on our to-do list for quite some time, and we were thrilled the home builders brought it forward, and we're going to look forward to working with them on it. So Emily, I don't know if you have anything to add.
Yeah, not really over and above what you just said. Kind of encapsulates it really fantastically. But again, the Quinte Home Builders are really excited to work on the project, and we're willing to help in any capacity that we can. So again, anything that will drive that, not only resident retention, but also bringing in tourists and immigrants of all kinds. So we're really excited. Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks, Karen, for that. That's under new business. Before we get to the next meeting, and I was hoping to have it finished by 12, and we're going to get there. And I appreciate your attention and staying focused. Something new that I came up with, we're going to have a little history lesson from Karen Post, and this is a new feature to the committee. And Karen is allowed 2 minutes, 30 seconds. I will interrupt her if she goes over, but we want a history lesson on one of our businesses in town. Karen, I'm going to throw you a curveball, see what you retained over the years. How about Kellogg's? Tell us about the Kellogg's deal you signed.
For sure. So back in 2006, 2007, there were a team of folks, including Chris King, who's on this call, John Swan with the Ontario Ministry of Agriculture, Food and Rural Affairs, and actually John Williams, who was chair of QEDC at the time. And we received an inquiry around a food processor that was looking to locate somewhere in Ontario. We found out eventually, after quite a while, that it was Kellogg's, and they were looking to develop their first greenfield site in North America in more than 20 years. And as you know, we were the successful bidder in that. It was a very difficult process. We didn't own all of the land that Kellogg's eventually located on. Some of it was owned by the city and some of it was owned by Sears. It was a fascinating negotiation. John Swan, Chris King, John Williams, and myself ended up going to Battle Creek, Michigan to pitch the Belleville location to some of their executives. It was an amazing trip, and while we were there, we had the opportunity to get our faces on a cereal. So you'll see there's John Williams, who is chair of QEDC. This is John Swan from the province. Chris King, you'll recognize there with the smile, and myself. They have a theme park there called Cereal City USA, and it was at one time there were more than 30 cereal producers in Battle Creek, Michigan. So we were able to take part in that. A funny story associated with it, of course, it was a top secret investment. We couldn't tell anyone. When we got back from Battle Creek, Michigan with our cereal, I brought it home and of course showed my kids. My daughter at the time was only about 5. We showed the kids, and next time we went to the grocery store, there was a big center aisle of Frosted Flakes there. And I saw my daughter wandering around and around and around the cereal. And she looked at me and she said, "Gee, Mommy, your face isn't on any of these boxes." So she kind of thought that, yeah, I was the new face for Kellogg's. But anyway, so the great story in terms of benefit to the community. They have a 230,000 square foot manufacturing facility here that we fully expect will double in time. They employ over 100 people at far better than average wages. They're a tremendously good community partner, and we're just so thrilled that we were able to get them here. And, you know, I thank the Sears for having facilitated the sale, but also all of our partners, particularly Chris King. He was the driving force behind that investment without question. And our council really, really worked hard to get that investment. And yeah, it's one we're very proud of.
Thank you. That's your history lesson. Manager Karen Post. That's a great story. Before we leave today, I want to acknowledge Louisa Sorrentino. I hope I got that right. Welcome. How's your first week with your new job with the downtown?
It was wonderful. Hi, everyone. Thanks, Councillor Kelly. Hi, everyone. Most of you already know me because we've worked together in one way or another. I'm very excited to be bringing my enthusiasm and passion to Belleville BIA, and yeah, to be working with all of you again. Thanks.
Well, thank you and welcome. Anybody final comments before we tell you when the next meeting's at? Anybody got anything to add? All right. Oh, Karen, Manager Post, you had your hand up?
Yeah, I just wanted to introduce Kimberly O'Brien-Mumby. She's on the call today. She is our administrative assistant in our department. So Kimberly's going to be doing our minutes and so on. She is all the work behind everything that Alicia and I do. So I wanted to say thank you to Kimberly for agreeing to do the minutes and welcome her to the committee.
All right. Welcome, Kimberly. You were on and off there, so I'm sorry I wasn't ignoring you. But welcome and hope you enjoyed it.
Thanks. No problem.
All right. Anything else? That's it. Next meeting, Manager Post, I have slated for June the 24th, starting at 10:30. All right. Thank you very much for coming out. Appreciate it. Thanks to everybody tuning in on YouTube as well.
See you later.